Testing, test, test.
We'd like to welcome all of those who are here today in celebration of William Lynch Jr.'s life. And we also like to welcome those who are watching by YouTube Live. I'm sure there are several back home that are tuning in, so we welcome all those who are here today. My name is Mario Platero. I am Bill's favorite brother-in-law, so just so you know that. He's got lots of them too, so I'm the favorite one. We like to remind you to silence your phones if you haven't yet. I probably should do that too myself, so we're not interrupted here today. But the family would like to welcome all those who have traveled to be here today and to pay their respects and their love for Bill, and to honor Maxine and her family, as well as other family that Bill has. We're grateful for you being here today. We'd first off, we'll just follow the outline of the program. So we'd like to invite Sylvia Platero to give us our opening prayer.
Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we're truly grateful that we can meet as family and brothers and sisters and loved ones to honor a great man. And may we ponder the words that are provided to us today, and we continue to hold him in our hearts and remember the wonderful things that he's provided us with, as in words and his actions and his humor. When we continue to learn to love and act upon our kindness, that we may be kind to one another, and we may learn to love and be grateful for all that we have been provided with. We're truly grateful that we know that we are here to learn while we're here, that we may put our actions and our words into play. Love thee, strive to be better. Our life lessons, and please bless each of the children and siblings and his wife especially, that she may be comforted and that she may turn to thee and find comfort in thee. We know that there is a higher being. We know that there is a God, and that we are striving to return to thee, and we're thankful for the gospel. And we turn our hearts to be better in all that we do and say. And we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Part of Bill's eulogy, I'll be reading something that is kind of a life sketch of Bill. And so I'm just going to read what was shared in the obituary. And it says here that William Lynch Jr., otherwise known as Bill, resident of Elk Ridge, Utah. He died on July 17th, 2021, at the age of 71. Bill was born in Rehoboth, New Mexico on December 10th. He grew up alongside He spent his career working for his tribe, the Navajo Nation, where he quickly gained recognition and served an important role within the tribal community. William is survived by his adoring wife, Maxine. Bill met Maxine Tony, the love of his life, and they married on December 31st, 1992. They loved traveling, spending weekends with their grandchildren, gardening, and watching old westerns. He will be deeply missed by his family and friends. During the program, there are some musical selections that have been chosen by the family. And the first one will be by Amy Winehouse, a song called "To Know Him Is to Love Him." And I was a little curious about this song, And so I kind of looked up a little bit of the history of this song. And this song was inspired by a songwriter by the name of Phil Spector. And he saw a photograph of his father's tombstone. And this is what inspired him to write this song. So I encourage you to listen to these words. I'd like to invite Key Lynch, a son of Bill, to come up and share some thoughts, after which we'll have another musical selection by the Eagles called In the City.
Yate. Um, so I'm Key Natani Lynch, the oldest son of Bill. And I want to thank all my family and friends that came to pay respects to my dad. I want to thank you, Maxine, for taking care of my dad. I'm Senjakina, born for Kia Ani. My wife is here. My two daughters are here. They happen to make it out with me. And then Bill's other daughter, Kristen, is here. Unfortunately, Lee Nazba Simmons could not make it, but she's thinking about this and hopefully watching from Kentucky online. And Dustin, his youngest son, unfortunately could not make it today as well, but his heart is here. So I just want to say that my dad was a strong, intelligent man. He taught me a lot growing up. What I enjoyed about being my father was he wanted to hear the music that I listened to growing up. So every time I visit him, so my parents were separated, so I spent a lot of summers with my father. And what I love too is going to the ranch and enjoying that part of my father's side. And I remember just buying CDs from Sam Goody, or not CDs, tapes from Sam Goody and Gallup, and would listen to the whole tape, driving from Gallup to the ranch and in Clegato, and he never. Some of the stuff he liked, most of the stuff I was surprised that he liked, but he was a very humorous guy, and I was surprised that I actually bought Sir Mix-a-Lot at the time and played that, and he still liked it. um, but in general, Dad, we're gonna miss you. I know you're here with us. I love you so much. I wish I just spent more time with you. And to everyone here, let's enjoy each other. Thank you for coming. And I want to get to know every one of you. And I love every one of you. And thank you.
We now would like to hear from Jeremiah Deschini, a son-in-law to Bill.
Yate She'e Jeremiah Deschini Yinishe. My name is Jeremiah. I'm married to Danielle, Bill's youngest daughter, his youngest child. I'd like to thank everybody who joined us today. I'd like to thank you guys personally for coming out, and on behalf of Danielle, your support is greatly appreciated. So Danielle and I have been married about 7 years now, and I've known William about the same amount of time. I met him a handful of times before Danielle and I got married, or before I proposed. But it wasn't until we got married that I really got to know him and got to spend a lot of time with him. But Danielle asked if I would speak on her behalf today because she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to do so. And she said she didn't know how to put all of this into words, but these are some random thoughts that she wanted to share. And so these are her words. I remember Dad taking me to the ranch countless times in his truck, and I would hang out with Grandma Lynch while he worked on the ranch with my uncles. He gave me the memories of growing up with Grandma Lynch. He gave me the memories of playing in the dirt and running among the cattle. I enjoyed a lot of things that he enjoyed, including scary movies, alien documentaries, sports, westerns, as in the movies, guns, and music. And I'm gonna, Danielle would often talk about listening to music with her dad, like she said that she would introduce him to different types of music, and he did enjoy it. She would listen to Korn with him and a bunch of other stuff, but she also listened to the music that he listened to. And so she enjoys quite a range of music as well. I witnessed him being a hard worker, whether it included him working for the school board, the Navajo Nation, or around the house. He never showed weakness when I was scared or when I was experiencing hardship. He would assure and advise me through every step. And she says, I'm sorry for the many times I got you frustrated. I'm sorry for all the times I made you worry. But thank you for trusting in me and believing in me and loving me. Even though you had this look and sense of intimidation, you cared for me, your kids, and you cared for my mom. I'm very sad, but after all our talks, I know everything you questioned is answered. So, I know Danielle was very close to her father, and he was really close with our kids. He would come up with excuses to come over and visit them. To visit them during the week. So, Danielle asked me to do this, and it's hard. But Maxine was working on her yeast bread, and she was cooking a whole bunch. And William said, make some extra. I'm going to take it over to them. And I don't work very, very far from where we live, so I'd come home from lunch almost every day, and he would be there, and I'd come in and and he'd be sitting on the couch, and he'd have our kids, and whenever he would come over, they would run to the door and they would get so excited. They loved him so much. And And I enjoyed watching him interact with them. He would hold them when they were babies, and he would cradle them. And when he thought no one was looking, he would hold them, sit them on his lap, and he would whisper things to them, and he would laugh. And I don't know what he would say, but I appreciate the love that he gave to my kids, to our kids. And if our kids went more than a week without seeing them, they would always ask, they'd say, let's go to Grandma's house, let's go to Papa's house. And they knew him as Papa. So, and my relationship with William was a little different than what my grandkids and what Danielle had with him. No, he was my father-in-law, but he was my friend. And knowing that my kids have lost someone, that Danielle has lost someone that close, that's what gets me. So whenever I would talk to William, I always called him William. I know growing up in high school, a lot of people called him Dusty. A lot of his family and close friends, they called him Bill. But after Danielle and I got married, I asked her, I said, so should I call him William or do I call him Bill? And she told me that until he tells you to call him Bill, call him William. And so out of respect, I called him William. That, and he's pretty intimidating. But until he got around his grandkids, then he's a big softie. So I think it was probably the third time that I met him that I asked him if I could marry Danielle. And I was living in Utah, and Danielle had moved to Utah after we had met. And we drove down, and on the drive down, I asked her to take her mom out of the room. And so she took her outside, and it was pretty cold. And later on, they told me that they were freezing out there. They were like, just hurry up. But we sat on the couch in their living room, and he can look pretty serious sometimes. And I think he knew what was up. But I asked him. I don't remember what we talked about too much until I asked him. I kind of told him what I did. Told him that I was part-time in the Army. And that I worked for a company and I did tech stuff, and it was kind of like a job interview, and he looked very serious, and I felt like I was failing, but I told him that I wanted to marry his daughter. And he sat there for a good minute, and he asked me a bunch of questions, and told me he was worried. The only other time that someone had asked him to marry their daughter, it didn't work out. And I told him not to worry. That I would take care of Danielle. And he said, okay. So, a couple of years after Danielle and I got married, we had our first daughter, Taylor. And we still lived in Utah, so there's a lot of travel. And my parents actually grew up in St. Michael's, within about a mile from where Danielle grew up with William and Max. And so we got to travel home a lot and visit with my family and her family. But they decided after William retired, they decided to move up. And it's been very nice having them. because we'd visit them every weekend, almost every weekend. And he loved to go shooting. He loved to grill and listening to music and working. He was a hard worker. After they bought their house, the basement was unfinished, and he worked as an electrician, I believe, for the mine. And so he took the time to wire the entire basement, and he'd tell me about it. Talk about amperage. He'd talk about like the wire thickness and how many outlets you could put on certain gauges of wire. But because I worked in tech, he'd also ask me questions about Ethernet and how to put that in and where it should go. And he always had projects that he was working on when we'd come and visit, and I'd help him out, doing his backyard, helping him out with his sprinklers and other stuff. He was a really hard worker, and he did a good job of finishing up the home. But we do other things together. We signed up for a concealed carry class together that we did in Provo. And so we met up at some random hotel where they were giving the class in the conference room. And Danielle came and we sat through the class, and we talked about guns and stuff. And shortly after that, we went to a convention center where they're having a gun convention, and we're walking through, and he had his notebook of different research that he had performed, and he found a stand, and they were selling just a little 380, and he was really excited because it was one of the ones he was looking for, because it's and so he bought it on the spot. And I called Danielle and I said, "Hey, is it okay if I buy a gun?" And she said, "Yeah." So I bought the same model so that we could have the same one to take it shooting. We didn't get to go. I'm sorry. We didn't get to go shoot those, but we did get to shoot other guns and hang out together. But he was a good guy, and he was a great grandfather. I know I only got to know him for the past 7 years, and a lot of you have known him a lot more. But I loved him. And my kids loved him. And he was pretty funny too. Danielle told me this story one time when Five Guys showed up in Arizona. They went to Five Guys, and she was really excited to take him to it. And they went in, and he's like, "Hey, what's the deal? There are only 3 people working here." But I'd like to thank William for Danielle. Without him, I wouldn't have had her. And without her, we wouldn't have our kids. Oh. Thank you, William, for giving my grandkids a second home where they're comfortable. You will be missed. But I'm glad to have known you. Thanks.
Next, we'll have a musical selection, a song called "Dream a Little Dream of Me" by the Mamas and the Papas. This song was a song that they found on his iPod, and so one of the last songs he may have listened to. After this song, we'll hear from his brother Hubert Lynch.
Birds singing in the sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of birds singing in the sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of me. Stay right and kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you'll miss me while I'm alone in blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me. Stars raining, but I linger, still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn. Just
Um, Hello, and glad to see you. I'm next in line, besties. I don't call my own name, but anyway, I grew up with Dusty. Two of us all younger years until he got married. Anyway, the way our plan is, I guess it's Tia Ani and
were born for salt. Ashihin. And my grandfather, our grandfather, is Tutsuni. And on my father's side, paternal side, is my father is Ashihin. Like I said, we're born for salt people, and my father's born for Kintlachitni. Kintlachitni. That's the way Navajos introduce each other. At first, very important. That way we'll know who's who, where we came from, and who's related to us. So we never marry, we watch who we marry. So that's why the clan system is really important. Then when we go to work, we relate, like Dusty worked for the tribe, and he didn't realize the clan was really important, but he said people there worked for him with my brothers, my sisters, cousins, and all that. That's the way the tribe works. They're kind of related to each other. That's how they work together real good. That's the system that they have anyway. Anyway, that's where we come from. And my grandfather, Jim Sosi, my grandmother, Nazbat Sosi, they were able to move to Tlagato, where we have our ranch, sheep ranch, and after the reservation was expanded by Chi Dodge towards Tlagato, my grandfather came from Pinon, and he was shipped off to Phoenix Indian School when he was probably about around 12, 11 years old, whatever. So he shipped off up there, and he was able to be educated, one of the few Navajos back then. And he came back with a group of some of his friends. They walked back from Phoenix. I don't know how many, said it took them about a month to walk back Phoenix to all the way back to Navajo Reservation, Tlagato. So he settled down in Tlagato because his uncle was there. And the reservation was just ready to be expanded. As soon as it expanded, he went ahead and moved out there. And real grass, back then was grassy, meadow, very pretty, almost just one of the most paradise area. We had a lot of rain back then, and that's how my grandfather got into the sheep business. And on my father's side, they were in the cattle business. And my father's side, they lived a little ways. And going further back, I guess the Lynch name we got from Irish, I think. There was a white man that him and his brother, Hugh Lynch, and his brother, Willis Lynch, they came down way back in 18, or after the reservation, I guess the Navajos moved back from the Long Walk. And they came down from Illinois or Kentucky or something. And they were horse trading with the government, selling horses. And I don't know, always wonder why they got their name Lynch, but maybe this has something to do with it, selling and trading horses. But anyway, they were supposed to be Irish. I think being back at that time, the East part of the country, they didn't like Irish. So there's a lot of Irishes that came out to the Navajo Reservation and settled there. Even my wife, Marlene, she's part of that Irish way back Damon. They end up on the reservation, and they worked for a tribe. They would have Irish descent anyway. Anyway, that's where we're coming from. And that's how Hugh Lynch, the main Lynch, he started his business in Navajo, Arizona. I don't know if you ever heard of that. So he started at a trading post right there, trading with the Navajos. He got married to a Navajo named Mary Lynch, the original. There were the two main original that started the family under Lynch name. Then it grew on to younger siblings. And Hugh Lynch is my great grandfather. And then he had Tom Lynch is my grandfather on my dad's side. They all got married to Navajos and all that. They never really got, nobody ever, it seemed like nobody ever got married back into the white people, but they all, siblings all got married to Navajos and end up full 100% now. And so anyway, there's four main ones. I think it was there's Maddie Olson. They kind of like kind of disappeared. She married a white person. And they had that whole place painted desert, petrified forest, all the way down to Napa area, Napa, Arizona, Sanders, Chambers, all that area that was controlled by Lynch family. And through the conflict and land dispute and all that, everything is gone. Up to this day, everything is gone. You know, that's where we come from. Mainly producers, meat producers, both sides of my family, Socies and Lynches. My grandfather, we raised sheep. My dad's side raised cattle. So we fed a lot of people. And Dusty always saying that our grandparents are more Republicans. We're producers. He goes, we're just not totally. We're independent. We don't depend on the government. We're able to feed people with what we're producing. He goes, that's one thing that we kind of got in the conflict later on. You know, kind of argue about that, especially when Trump became president. You know, so I kind of agree with him. He was Dusty was a hard worker. He's a hard worker, and our dad always says, Bo and Dusty was real hard working. Sent us out there. Anyway, okay, Bo comes from Dusty. We're young. He gets real young. In Navajo, he goes, Bo yinliedo, bo dishnido, he goes. I don't know what it meant. He couldn't pronounce Hubert. So he says, Bo. From there on, he gave me an idea. Who was I? You know, I was totally, somehow it became conscious. I'm a person, I'm a Bo. You know, I have a name. I'm a person. I was given a name by Dusty. So I say, yes, boss. Yes, my lord. So you know, from there on, I followed him. He took care of me, looked after me like a brother, I guess, where it only seems like there are two of us. We went through a lot of work. We're kids, and we started off with 5 cows. My dad was able to get 5 cows. We went barefooted, bring cows in, take them out, bring cows in to my grandfather's place, to our windmill. We have a windmill there, still working. One of the best water around, clear. You can't even taste it. When you drink that water out there, it just goes through. You want more and more and more. I suppose that's why our sheep was so fat. They couldn't have enough water and salt. So there was anyway. That's in the water mill. The windmill still stands. Dusty and I, we rebuilt it with my dad. Poured concrete and put a new tower there. And if you ever go out there, the kids there, grandkids, there's a place out there to look at, see. In the future, when we're gone, they can drive out there, get directions, be out there where Dusty had. And we put a lot of work there. There's fences there, pastures that we put up. Old barn is gone. There's a house there, and everything else is just dried up, blew away, or just gone with age. And so we're still out there. My brother Jack taking care of the place out there, whatever he can muster up. And I'm glad that he's out there. I appreciate that, Jack and Stuart. You guys are out there. And anyway, Dusty, he gave me that name, and I've been that stuck with me all of my life. Is my name is Bolt, and his Dusty. His name didn't come out of the movies or any kind of book like that. Dusty, my mom called him Dusty. I guess my dad, my mom, when he was a little kid, I don't know, way about 3, 4 years old, come into the house, all dirty, and so they give him a bath. When they start washing his hair, all this flake of dust like a dandruff comes out. So what is that? It's not sand or some kind of dust comes out of his hair. 'Cause every time my mom washed his hair, and so they called him Dusty. And that's the only way I knew him, Dusty. And when we were younger, we just spoke Navajo. We probably didn't even really didn't communicate in English until about junior high or high school. But all that we grew up speaking Navajo, and it was right now when I see little kids, grandkids, when they say Navajo word, it's good to hear. Say when my half breed white kids from Michigan and all their cousins, they call me Che. And my Navajo kids, grandkids over here in Phoenix, they call me Grandpa. So it's kind of, I had these little white kids running around and say, Conche, hey. Well, anyway, that's way. That's how we communicated was in all Navajo. Yeah, we rode most of the time. In the summertime, we're shipped off to sheep camp, spent a whole summer with my grandparents. From there, we took care of the cattle. So we did. So see, I guess when you look back, it seems to be real rough. But during that time, we really enjoyed it. It was heaven out there, paradise out there, compared to living in the BIA compound. My parents were living in the BIA. They worked for BIA, retired in BIA. After my dad went to, when he was in high school, everybody had gone. His brothers, Tom Lynch and Junior, and Pat Lynch. He had two brothers, older brothers. My dad was the youngest. They went off. Tom Lynch went off to Europe. Pat did, and Tom, the oldest, Tom Lynch Jr. He ended up in prisoner of war after they hit Normandy. I guess the Germans caught him and his platoon. So right out the back, they shipped him out deep into Germany, out in some place in a prison camp. So he spent the whole year, 4 years of his in the army as POW. Was able to come back. He's still living right now. He's in like Albuquerque group home. And Pat, my other uncle, he ended up in Battle of the Bulge. He was telling my dad that had those Germans just came up, ran over us. He goes, we had to run like heck. He goes, during the Battle of the Bulge. So they were able to get out. He was able to get out and come back. My dad ended up in later. He ended up in Okinawa when he went in as a Marine. He must have been still in high school. He went in probably about 17. They took him in. He said he went through boot camp. Was a real fast boot camp. Learn how to shoot and ship them off to as soon as they can to Okinawa. They hit the beach. His what do you call it, landing craft was one of the first to hit the beach. They were going to hit the beach, but they used them as what do you call it, a rendezvous. They were going to hit the beach, but they turn around, see how much fire they would draw before the main hit the beach. The main group hit the beach, so they were used as a sitting duck. What do you call it? Sitting ducks or whatever. So I came back around, so surprised. Huh? He says, everybody's yelling, hey, 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 war's over. So, but later on, they ended up hitting the beach and spent, I don't know, 3, 4 months right there in Okinawa, telling stories about that. And I guess that one time his platoon ended up too far into Okinawa, and they got cut off for a couple of weeks. They were starving, and these ladies, Okinawa ladies, they were able to feed them fish, bloody fish, all that. They're able to survive, and before the rest of the platoon or the company caught up with them. Up to this day, I've never seen them eat fish. He doesn't like fish, my dad. So that's what they went through, and that's what she's telling us. And Dusty and I, we worked as a cowboy. It's like we weren't specialized in anything. It was just like a little bit of everything. You know how to work the fence, not fence and stuff, but the barbed wire kind of things, We worked the fence, kept the fences up, worked on windmills. We drew sucker rods up, changed overhaul it, tune it up, kept the windmill going, and we on horseback. Dusty was a good doctor. One time, I got clobbered by a horse right in there, sitting there bleeding. Nobody else didn't care. Sitting there, Dusty came over and picked me up and took me over to the trailer and sat me there and washed my face, washed my hair, cleaned me up, put some blood stopper on my head. Blood stopper is the powder stuff that you put on cows. When it mixed with blood, it turns black. Sitting there, Dusty's laughing. Keeps wiping my face, So he's a good doctor. And then one time, we would spend days on horseback, all day long, morning. And my dad would get us ready, go to trading post, get a loaf of bread, can of Spam, Coke, feed us and back to pick up and get ready for us to spend a whole day out there. They'd never had such thing as a water bottles. We got our water from going water hole all out there. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a big area out there. We look for cattle all day long, cows. And so one time it was so hot during summertime, it gets hot. All day on horseback. All you have is a straw hat and your horse. And in the evening, I got tuckered out. I don't know. I was still in high school. We're still in high school doing that. I got tuckered out, and I was about to faint. Our barn was just a little ways, about half a mile away to go. Got tuckered out. And I told him, can't go on, So it got me off the horse and set me out. And I was blind. I couldn't see anymore. So I got some water and cooled me down, everything cooled me down. Got back on the horseback and I felt a little bit better. So I got going again, finally got home. You do that a lot of times. So this is the first time it really hit me. I didn't realize where we were straight. And then there's other times where we almost freeze in the wintertime, feeding the cattle and taking the hay out there. In the middle of the night, we'll be out there in the mud and snow. We're almost freezing. We'd have little jackets. It's not like nowadays. We have everything's all prepared for you. All we have is blue jeans, boots, no overshoes, no snowsuit or nothing like that. Just shirt and jacket. That's how it was. And it gets cold out there. We had a lot of snow, gets wet too. And I thought many times we're going to freeze to death some of these days. Does he something? I said, no. He goes, what choice do I have? But that was, we enjoyed that. Thinking back, we enjoyed it. We missed it. That's why Dusty always wants to come back over there because he wants sees that, went through that, and you think you're suffering, but it was really was enjoyment. Being a cowboy, that's what it is. I guess being a cowboy took care of little things. Work on saddles, did our own leather work, horse shoeing, horse trimming, did all that stuff, and dig holes, post holes, running fences, and I don't know what else the cowboy would do. Shoot at anything that gets in front of you. That's his deal. He likes to shoot things. He was a good shot. He sees something, grabs it. He gets it. I was kind of afraid of him. This guy's kind of dangerous. And sometimes I have to say, don't shoot it. What are you doing it? Why? Why are you into that kind of thing? He was protected us because there are times, ugly times too, real ugly times. Like we're small and we were in the barn playing. We saw this big old thing coming at us. It seemed real huge back then. We froze, and start yelling. We don't know what it was. My grandpa came in and got a shovel and snapped that thing down. It was a big rattlesnake coming at us. We're hypnotized. That's kind of thing that those kind of things that we threw. And one time we were out there looking for a bull. We out there and unloaded our horses, and we thought looking for a bull. Always the bull problem. Bringing back the bull because they take off and our cows are dry. Bulls, male thing, I guess. They take off. We have to bring them back. They take off again, bring them back. That one night, that one evening, we thought that we saw a bear. What the heck is that? It's a bear standing up and down, big as I am, or something. So, let's go chase it. He goes, so, okay, let's go. He goes, go. Took off as fast as we can. We had some pretty fast horses, some bull rope, not bulldogging horses, and they were fast, and we couldn't catch up, so we stopped. And that thing stopped again, looked at us, looked at us, go, took off again, chased it. That thing outran us. We didn't know what it was. It was a black figure. Couldn't be there on 2 feet. Always think was it something like some kind of supernatural thing that we saw. And other times we seen a mountain lion one time. Those bushes back then they were about like that high, way up high. We go through a valley, and you really can't see what's in there, Bushes were all that high, right through there. As usual, looking for cows or stray cows or whatever. And this thing jumped up, went over the bushes. So the mountain lion out there, out in the desert. They come down, and often we see some deers out there. So it's a plain grazing area. Right now, it's all dried up. And so that's what we did in our younger years. And so we had we tried to go to church. My mom tried to get us to go to church. We really didn't understand it. We never really read the Bible. We didn't know what it was. But we did. People did have their church meetings, and we were mainly Catholics. My dad's side, they're all Catholics, just like the Irishes. They're kind of We had a Catholic church in Flaglerton. Used to go over there, and my mom used to be with the Mennonites and the Protestant or Presbyterian over here. But that's how this our religion wise. We never really was dedicated. I don't know when Dusty was baptized, but I was baptized just sort of recently, back in the 90s. Never read the Bible till then. And so I found out that some religion each other called each other atheists. My God is better than your God, that type of thing. So I kind of, especially after Trump came up, I had to, it's ridiculous. I can't, how it really messed us up. My Christianity belief. So anyway, when we drove up here, gas was the 3.89. You know, 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, you moved the decimal way over here. Back then, in their trading post, gas was 38 cents a gallon. $2 will buy 5 gallons of gas, right around out there, all day long, right around out there. Soda pop was like 10 cents. Candy bar is 5 cents. And that's how old we are right now. Thinking back, we're gonna look at these signs and God, I can't believe it's been that long. It seems like right now we're little kids scooting around on the ground, crawling around, playing with little cars, stick figures, and mud balls or whatever we make figures out of. That's how that's how it was back then. Kids nowadays they got all kind of Star Wars stuff and all that computer, iPads, and our little kids, 3 year old, 4 year old, they have their own iPads. I can't believe that's the way it was, I guess. And anyway, my mom used to be a weaver. She weaved a lot of rugs. My dad, he worked the ranch with us. We're not able to. And so we did after school. During high school, we played in sports. Dusty's a good ball player. All of them. I could never be as good as he was. Tough in football. Basketball, he's good. He always brought back trophies. In baseball, we went out for track. I followed him all over the place. He played football, I played football. Played basketball, I played basketball. Baseball. And he went out for track. So okay, I'll go for track too. So we went out for track in high school. Our last 2 years, and there was only 5 of us in the track team, which all over. Back then, it wasn't just within the reservation. We went all over the place, all over Arizona track tournaments. Then one time, the baseball team, they happened to have baseball game up there in Page or something like that. Part of the team got drunk or something like that. So they drafted us track guys, and we were playing baseball and track at the same time. That's how we were in sports. We were into sports because we want to get away from home sometimes, get away from those cattle, get tired of those cattle, sometimes get tired of horses. But he took care of the horses real good. I think always felt bad about how we treated we had to doctor them, dehorning them, castrating them, splitting their ears for ID, tagging them, all that kind of stuff we did. It's kind of seems like it's inhumane, to have cattle like that, but live with it. It wasn't a livelihood. Like I said, we started off with 5 cattle, and my dad finally got a bull, one of those registered bulls from the white guys from Chambers. It's when we built up Catholic. 10 years time, 15 years time, we had a big herd. It's good. We try to keep the cattle good blood, good breed, and because that was our livelihood. And we worked this Dusty night. I guess that's how we built up. That's where we got part of our money. We were able to wear good boots, good clothes, and all that. I'm glad about that. We were kind of spoiled. I guess got spoiled, and, and then Dusty got his first car. It was a 1959 Ford four-door gray and white sedan. He thought it was the greatest thing. And one time, we we my dad got him a car so we can stay out there in Flagatown. While the rest of the family was at Toye. After the government closed the school down in Flagatown, had to move to Toye, and that was quite a ways. So we stayed in Flagatown, right close to the cattle. Check on them, haul water, make sure they're fed, taken care of, make sure they're not stolen and everything. So he had a car, went back and forth to school, and one time I said, "Hey, let's go see how fast this thing goes." Yeah, we kind of sort of like downhill towards Flagatoon. There's a stretch there, about 3 mile stretch, 3 or 4 mile stretch. See how fast this thing goes. And he stepped out. We were going, hit about 115 miles an hour. That old Ford V8. That's the fastest we ever gone our whole life, I guess. I think. But Dad never went that fast. We were still in high school, crazy kids. And we did a lot of water hauling. Tried went through water holes, suck out water here and there, and everything else. People didn't like us hauling water for our cattle, but we ran into a drought and stuff. Been a drought ever since then. Right now, even right now, we didn't get still don't get much rain. I'm really sad about it. Sad about it. But Dusty was always a reader too. He read books, and we talked about all the books that we read. And one time he was telling, "Do you ever read Will Rogers?" He goes, I said, "Yeah, I just heard about him." And he said he's got a lot of quotes, real cowboy jokes, real common cowboy, common sense jokes. He goes, quotes, not jokes, quotes. And I always think about him. But the one he said, Will Rogers says, good judgment comes from experience, and a lot of that comes from bad judgment. That's true. We went through a lot of bad judgment, and then just to get some kind of experience, we thought it was nice, it was good, like I'm doing right now, where I'm remembering. Might have been bad back then, might look bad, but actually we enjoyed it. Glad. And so that's how we were, and I think that one time, what is a cowboy? We were never into rodeos. My dad didn't want us to go into rodeos because we're too busy working on weekends. We had our own deal, so he didn't really encourage us. Although one of my uncle, my dad's cousin, really wanted us to go ahead and join him in the roping, but which we never did. And that was his name was Ben Lynch. Ben Lynch, and he's gave us a bull way back then. That's the one. That's the bull I was talking about. My dad and Ben Lynch, out of the whole Lynch family, they were able to hang on to the herd cattle business. All the rest of them became assimilated, sitting nearby towns and all that, married into it. Town folks. My dad and Ben Lynch kept the cattle going for a while. So everything was that. Our life was just like livestock. And we had the best meat, grass fed meat. Right now, it's so expensive you can't even afford grass fed in a regular restaurant. We butchered our own cattle, butchered our own sheep, and never again will ever taste that kind of food anymore. Meat, grass-fed meat, they don't exist anymore. Maybe there's still some out there. If you can get it, people they're still raising their some sheep and some cattle. But this place is all overgrazed and drought. It's gonna be real rare. It's not gonna exist anymore. Like so we just took it for granted that it was the way it is. It was gonna be like that forever. But no, nothing's forever. Even this, we're going back. We're on a trip. We traveled this far. And, I know it's sad not calling up our brother anymore right now, talking to him directly. But, I guess I'll talk to him. It would be one-way communication right now, but that's okay. Sometimes I laugh at to myself sometimes. Laugh about what he says and what I say. Sometimes he get after me. He would say, "At işte ne?" He says, "What are you saying?" I don't know what I was saying. He gets after me, like, "At işte ne?" He goes, "Did it all." He says, "What are you doing? Do it this way." That's all my life. Hear this and that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, master. So I really enjoyed following him around here and there. Never really got into big trouble. Never did anything like you hear a lot of drugs going on right nowadays. I never did that. Dad warned us all the dope problems. Dope they use dope for horses and racing and all that. And he taught me how to cook. I never roasted salmon before until he told me how to do it. Never roasted pork ribs before until he showed me how to do it. All that cooking before that, it was the same old fried potatoes every day. Seemed like kind of taught me how to cook, and, taught me how to fight, protect myself. We're younger. I'm talking about way 30, 40 years ago, I guess. Not now. It's different now. It's different now. He changed. He changed. So this is what we did: is we worked as hard as we can. Keep our help my dad, my mom, and I really appreciate my grandparents and my parents. My parents, I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. A lot of respect for them. And I try. That's about it. There's more. I don't know how much time we got, how much we're paying per hour permitted here. And well, anyway, one time there's another funny thing that happened. There's some people that's at work, I guess. This is more recent. They didn't know people call him Bill, When he interpreted, there were some girls, secretaries or something, they're asking, Mr. Lynch, why do they call you Bill? And then Dusty goes, in Navajo, what would that be? Who speaks Navajo here? Okay, nobody speaks Navajo? Just one person. You tell everybody else. So they were asking, how come they call you Bill? Then he goes, what's a shaha? He goes, oh my. He goes, in English, it says I got a lot of bills. Which is nothing wrong with that. But if you interpret Navajo, totally different. It means the same thing. That's the way Nathan is. And that was hilarious when I heard about him. He didn't tell me. I heard about it. Like, yeah. Then one time, I remember sometime be riding a horse all day long. Come back to the barn. Wait. My dad would wait after we groom our horses, brush them down, feed them grain. Feed their horses grain. They call it Milo grain, crushed Milo. Fed our cows crushed Milo sometime before we butcher them. Crushed Milo came in from Texas. They used to ship them by the chapters or something. And we'd be sitting in the barn waiting for my dad to show up. We're hungry. Say, hey, taste this. He goes, start eating the grain. Be sitting in the grain. Tastes like oatmeal, raw oatmeal. It's good. Very nutritious, I think. That's how he gave me to be tough. And we'll be sitting there eating grain. How about the smoke? He goes. I said, what? You have these smokers? Cigarettes? I said, no. He goes, takes the stem out of those third cutting alfalfa hay. You know, those, they look like maybe like Starbucks straws, cutting straws. Then he'd lick the end of it and be smoking. Wait for my dad to pull up. He's smoking alfalfa grass. It was probably the best tobacco ever was. If they made it into a commercial, they probably taxed the heck out of us. Anyway, yeah, we used to do those kind of things, and we we were real young. We after butchering a cow or something like that, butchering. My mom and dad had these big old nice butchering knives like that, and we started. He, hey, try it. Go for it. We each got one of these long, short. Started fighting. Diddly, swing. Yeah, that's what we're going. We're going crazy. Till he hit my wrist there. Just a little tiny, big old slash. Oh no! Quickly he got. Like, he's a good doctor. He really wrapped my hands up. He thinks my parents won't see it. Wrapped it up. Back here. What are you doing? They got after us and got scared of us too. And they packed their knives away. Never seen them again. And yeah, he pulled me out a lot of times. When way out there we're riding horses after it rained, or you can't tell. There's quicksands out there. People died from boggy lakes. People died. Cattle fall in there. They can't get out. Can't pull them out. We call them kicksands because they're real sticky and everything. So we're riding down. He were a little ways from here. I was going up an embankment, and all of a sudden, my horse sunk in. I couldn't tell you can tell he avoided, but this was like a dry sand, and it was wet on the bottom. Horse just sunk in just like that. I didn't know what to do. Say, hey, Dusty. Came over, jumped off his horse, and I jumped off the horse. We started pulling the horse out. We were lucky to get out there. By ourselves, way out there. We're always by ourselves, way out there. I wonder how we survived. But that's going from water hole to water hole just to get a drink of water. And sometimes there are rustic can lying around. Somebody did it. Pick it up, blow it up, clean it out, get water, drink water. Didn't care about virus or germs back then. Everything's clean out there. There's no germs. Right now, I wouldn't do it. Back then, you just drink water off the ground. Back to the old days. Always wonder how many cowboys experience some of those kind of things. Rodeo cowboys, But anyway, that's how it was back then. We weren't really cowboys. We were just probably sheepmen, or I don't know what we were, wanderers or gatherers or what. Yeah, so that's I don't know. I'd sure like to go through all my notes, but I don't know how much time I'm taking. I just put down notes coming up here. I don't know what to talk about. That's the only way I knew my brother. Caring, was caring, compassionate, and he always said respected. Had a lot of respect for older people. When we're riding out there, we see some old people. These old men, my grandfather's age, they would come up to us and start talking. They would talk about their old days to us too, you know. And they had a rough too, way back then, before anything, before vehicles were available. And the one thing they do is they really be proud of their horses. Those old men, you might see them all scrawny and everything, but they're proud of their horses. We'll be riding later horses where our horses were well fed and everything. And so another thing too is that you know, when you Dusty made a sword out of aluminum pipe, real nice sword. Maybe it's just a toy thing, but means nothing. But that sword became a fire poker. Know what a fire poker is? Take care of the fire. Indestructible. You're not supposed to destroy your poker or burn your poker, fire poker, sacred kind of thing, Navajo ceremony kind of thing. That's he made one out of aluminum. My grandparents really liked it because that fire poker lasted forever. You know, fire is sacred to Navajos, and and he had a lot of feelings. And, one time he says, he goes, one thing I always kind of remember one time about how Navajos valued turquoise. White people, and all that, they didn't value turquoise. We're supposed to wear turquoise all the time. The holy people recognize us as their children. And he said, Dusty goes, do you know why Navajos value turquoise? He goes, I said, no. He got a piece of turquoise like that. I said, what does this look like? He goes, is it a rock? What is it? He goes, I don't know. He says, when you look like that, hold towards the sun. That's the earth, Mother Nature. It's our mother. That's how we respect turquoise. It's not just a mineral. So the younger people think about that. Going back into our tradition, there's a lot to talk about there in that way. Like I said, I became more atheist when churches called each other atheists. Catholic would call Protestant atheist, Protestant called Catholic atheist. Then I became more atheist after Trump, like I said, you know. So I'm not. So anyway, we kind of disagree on that. But this one thing, you know, you kids, young people, it's our mother nature, our mother, Mother Earth. Sun is our father. They came together and gave us life. And the holy people was after the Big Bang or whatever, everything was in chaos, blew up space, universe, chaos. The whole holy people, the way we believe, organized it, came a being. And we're going to go back to the universe, to where we came from. That's the way I see it, Dusty. I'm grateful that we had this little tiny time and space in infinity, all of us here right now, sitting here, little tiny little part of it, the universe, Big Bang, or that's the way I see it. And so we don't take it too hard. We're going to be back here with them, be back together, spiritually or whatever. That's where we came from. That's why we came to be talk about it, conscious about it. We're going back over there too, and we're glad of it. We should be glad, so don't be too sad. We'll be there again because that's where we came from. Stars or minerals, turquoise, gold. The white man weighs gold. With us, indigenous people is different. Maybe it's all the same, but it's good that we're here again. Right? Forever it'll be in our mind. We'll always remember Dusty. I will. My kids don't really know him. So taking into consideration, he was more like I would say in my own words, he was the non-objective to beliefs, but he was very practical and he was objective in practice. With short words. That's the way I seen him. And I respect that, and I thank him for it. I thank for my brother, my parents, my grandparents. Thank you for you guys are all part of us. In mind or in blood. Thank you. I could say more, wish I could say more. And I guess we'll be getting together at the reception or something like that. Maybe something else will come pop in my mind, make you guys laugh again. We can all laugh. Okay. I want to get that out of my system. Know him. It meant a lot. My brother. That's the.
Yeah, all of those of you who have shared some good thoughts about Dusty and Bill and William. I learned a lot about him today. I learned that he is a reader, that he's a rancher. You probably didn't know this, but Bill is a daredevil too. So he's a daredevil. He's a fighter, a doctor, maybe a Trumpster. I don't know. He could be a Trumpster. Comedian. He's a lumberjack. He's a hornet from Ganado. He's a barbecuer. And he's the only Indian cowboy out there, I think. So being native, but he lived a cowboy life, you know. So and all those things that I learned about Bill today, I agree. I've seen those things in him. I know that you know I've known Bill for over 30 years and visited him and Maxine off and on all those years. And when you get to you know, stay with their family and get to know him, you get to love him and you get to know who he is. And so as I was driving down thinking about, you know, what would I say about Bill, one thing that really stuck out in my mind is that he has a very inquisitive mind. He wants to know answers. He has questions. If you were to go into his house and look at his bookcase in his office, you'll see books about politics, religion, economics, history of newspapers, of Navajo Times and magazines. And so, yes, he was a reader. And as a reader, he wants to know answers. He's learned new things. And so, if anything that I will remember about Bill is that he does have that inquisitive mind. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask, where is he now? What's he doing? Where did Bill come from before here? Why was he here on this earth? What was his purpose? And then what's he doing now? It's okay to ask those questions. I know that Bill is home with his mother and his father, a great family reunion. And he probably wishes that he could say something more to us, like, oh, I should have said this to them. But he showed a lot of his knowledge and love and compassion through his actions. And that was Bill. If you stayed with him long enough, the conversation ends up to Trump, right? Politics comes up. He's very compassionate about politics. And that means he cares about us and cares about our country. I learned that, through his brother here, we learned a lot about his family history. Those are things that we should be recording and writing down and keeping in our memories and teaching that to our children and grandchildren and their children. And what a valuable history to know that his family has been in several wars and has served in the military. And then to hear of all the ranching stories and everything that he's been a part of, that's exactly who he is and who he will be. I know that when he passed, I received a phone call in the morning, and it's one of those phone calls that you get like, I don't want to answer that call. And so when I heard of his passing, I was very sad to hear of that, and immediately worried about Max and how she would react and how she would move on from here, along with his children and his grandchildren. In his own way, he loved everyone, and he sacrificed a lot. Someone told Max that, Bill sacrificed a lot, moving off the reservation to bring you up here to be closer to his grandchildren. Wow, that's a big sacrifice for a lot of people. That takes a lot of love. And I want Max and the rest of his family to know that over time, he recognized how important love is and how much value there is in family. I heard, I never knew how Bill and Maxine met. It's kind of a funny story. They met at a softball tournament. And but he was, someone who was always interested in learning about other people. Even myself, I remember him asking questions about, because I belong to the Mormon religion, he would ask questions about that. And and so we talk about religion sometimes and politics. And so I hope that when you walk away today, you know that that Bill would be happy with knowing that he's been loved and that a lot of people have said a lot of good things about him today. In the scriptures, it talks about where Jesus said that, let not your heart be troubled if you believe in God. It says that in my Father's house are many mansions. And so whenever I read about God or Father in the scriptures, I think in our native way, what resonates more with us is if we say Creator. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye that believe in the Creator. In my Creator's house are many mansions. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will receive you unto myself. That's where I am. There you will be also. And Jesus said unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man cometh unto the Creator but by me. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do, shall he do also. And greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father, who is the Creator. In this same chapter, talks about two comforters, and one of those being Jesus Christ, and the other is being the Holy Ghost. And it says here that, but the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. And the reason why I read these scriptures is because it's giving us hope, to telling us, don't be troubled. It's okay to mourn the loss of a loved one, but life continues on after this life. There's one last scripture that I'll read, and then we'll close our services here. And we see that death comes upon mankind. You know, death is like a universal heritage. All of us are going to go through that at some point. I'll read that again. And we see that death comes upon mankind. Yea, the death which has been spoken of by Amulek, which is the temporal death. So there's a death of the body, a temporal death. Nevertheless, there was a space granted unto man in which he might repent. And this is what Hubert was talking about. You know, there's a space granted unto us, a time here upon the earth that is given to us. So it says, nevertheless, there was a space granted unto man in which he must repent. Therefore, this life became a probationary state, a time to prepare to meet our Creator. So we're here upon this earth. That's what our purpose is to try to be kind and compassionate, take care of others and love people. But we're not here forever. A time to prepare to meet God, a time to prepare for that endless state which has been spoken of by us, which is after the resurrection of the dead. Brothers and sisters, I hope you know that Bill was a good man. He is a good man. He worked hard his whole life and sacrificed and loved. And I thought of him when I first knew him. You know, he was a little intimidating. He's a tall man, kind of, he's an educated man. But to hear of him when he became a grandfather and how that changed over time, he changed. He became that compassionate man. He wanted to be around his grandchildren. And that's what grandchildren can do to us, is make us softer and make us love. When I tell people that, because I have a granddaughter, and I said, I didn't know that there was another level of love that existed. And that came when my grandchild was born. And I know Bill has the same love and experienced that same love for his grandchildren. I hope that as we leave this day, that we'll leave knowing that we were blessed to have Bill in our lives, William, Dusty, Father, Dad, Grandpa, and Papa, that he was in our lives. And I really like this program because there's a lot of nice memories in these photos. And I'm sure when you've spoken of Bill, there've been a lot of good memories. So hang on to those memories, brothers and sisters, and know that hopefully that as we leave today, that we're better people and that we know our purpose here upon this earth, and that's to look after one another and take care of one another. And that's really all that matters. And I want to leave that with you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. We will have a closing prayer by Leo Platero. And this concludes our services for today. If you look on your program in the back, everyone here is invited to the reception on 860 North Silver Wolf Road, Elk Ridge, Utah, where there'll be a light lunch for all of us there. And we'd like to thank those who took part in preparing that meal for us. And those are the neighbors of Bill and Maxine. So thank you.
Ja, det är den där. Jag kan nog yagi. Den där jag det. Att hon då kunde hon ju sabi ha anini. Ja, that is the. I see 3 raiders here. One behind me, Maxine and Kenneth. Now, Kenneth and Maxine were my students at White Horse High School. So they get to see their old teacher up here. Anyway, kachia ya to zendal ni traya shon lon ya hela kwe atlasit lido okay ni tsa di kon je ache Allah the age ya di be lean there na saba ka ya kwe zeno inayila ko walchen which on the arts koshi na salon zeno ko so kiddo na la kishi yo named hala hasin za shi han hot ani jo anet in bahasan hala net arts ko in la jo na ho na san na altin ano nel arts ko benolni don hajin ba ye ba hetan ditsen koni nagalchen yat oban si kesabuka nil wadole hala hot aya in hinla aro hat ishin da hilzi je benache danayat sayat danitle. We're grateful to be here to celebrate with family and friends and know about Bill William Lynch. We're grateful that we got to know him through his example and through the stories that we've been told on his behalf. Help us to cherish that in our memories, in our hearts, that may we go forth. May we always remember him and keep him in our memories as we write in our journals and relate to our grandkids. What a great person that he was when he was on this earth. Again, we're grateful for all who have come, especially those come a long ways. Grateful for those that will help in any way. Help us to go forth with the determination to be a better person, to love one another and to cherish one another. We're grateful for all these things, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.